Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to go over how to add and subtract rational numbers. When we talked about classifying numbers, our rational numbers are fractions. So we're going to be adding and subtracting fraction numbers. So in order to add or subtract, they both require the exact same things. All you have to do is make sure that you have the same common denominator. And your denominator in a fraction is your bottom number. You have a numerator over a denominator. That's how it's set up. So numerator over the denominator, because there's two numbers in a fraction. And so those are the two ones that you have, denominator, numerator. Then you're just going to add or subtract the numerator of your fractions, and you're going to follow the exact same adding or subtracting rules that we've gone over previously. So I'm going to show you a couple examples on how to make sure that you get common denominators if you don't already have them. These four examples right here, none of them have common denominators. So let's jump right into it. 9 over 10 plus 1 over 6. Our denominators right here are 10 and 6. And what we need to do is figure out our least common multiple of 6 and 10. So least common multiples are, we're going to find multiples of 6, multiples of 10, whatever the smallest number is, or if you want to use the factor tree method, which you can go back and watch a previous video on least common multiples. So multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. And multiples of 10 are just increments of 10, so 10, 20, 30. So right there, 30 is the number that we're going to try and get to. In order to get to 30 from our 10, you're going to multiply by 3. And whatever you do to the denominator in your fraction, you're going to multiply to the numerator. So same thing up here with the 9. You're going to multiply times 3. We need to get to 30 on our 6, and the multiple of 6 to 30 is 5. So we're going to multiply by 5, and same thing on our numerator. So what we're going to end up with, 9 times 3 is 27 on top, 10 times 3 is 30, plus 1 times 5 is 5, 6 times 5 is 30. So we end up with the same denominators on the bottom, and all you're going to do is just add up top because it tells you what to do. Adding right here, 27 plus 5 is 32 over 30. Now, depending on what format you may be required in your practice assignments, this would be an improper fraction. If you would need to get it into a mixed fraction, you would take away 30 from your top, and whatever is left over becomes the next one. So this would be 1 and 2/30ths. Would be another way to write the exact same number. For the rest of these, I'm going to leave all of my answers in an improper fraction form. So on the next one, 3 and 5 are our denominators, so we need to find the least common multiple of 3 and 5. So our multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Multiples of 5 are 5, 10, and 15. There's our first one in common between both numbers. So that's what we're going to try and get to our denominators to be. In order to get from 3 to 15, your multiple is 5. And in order to get from 5 to 15, your multiple is 3. So sometimes your least common multiple, or your common denominator, is just going to be multiplying whatever the other denominator is. This is 5, so you're multiplying by 5. This is 3, so this is times 3. If you always do that, there may be some instances where you have to reduce your fractions at the end. And I'm going to show you what in one example is going to be when you have to reduce at the end. So 4 times 5 is going to be 20 over 15. 1 times 3 is 3. And 5 times 3 is 15. So there's our common denominator. Subtract straight across, 17 over 15. Okay. 1 over 2 plus 11 over 12. So I'm going to show you for this one what it would be like if you just simply multiply the other number, and you're going to end up having to reduce on the end for this specific example. Switch over to green. 12, and whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top, times 2 times 2. 1 times 12 is 12. 24. 22 over 24. Now 12 plus 22, since we have our common denominator, we can add the numerators, is going to make us 34. Now when you always keep your fractions in reduced form, you can reduce from here because they are both even. You can divide both the top and the bottom by 2. All right, 34 divided by 2 is 17, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. And I guess we could have reduced this fraction up here by dividing by 2 on both top and the bottom, but I just wanted to show you the difference between an improper fraction and a mixed fraction. So if you're going to multiply whatever the opposite number is, make sure you check at the end to see if it's completely reduced, and you check your form, whether it's going to be an improper or proper fraction. On the last one, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the least common multiple method. So multiples of 10, 20, 30, 40. Multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, and then 40 is our common one. So we're going to try and get to 40. Times 4 here, times 4 there. To get to 40 from 8, you do 5. 7 times 4 is 28 over 40. 5 and 5 is 25 over 40. So 20 minus 25 is going to be a negative 5 because you subtract the bigger number minus the smaller one, and you keep the sign of the bigger number, which is a negative. And again, we need to make sure that this is completely reduced. 5 and 40, their common factors are 5. So when you divide by 5, and I'm going to bring it all the way down here where I have room, negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. And 40 divided by 5 is 8. And make sure you keep your signs with all of your numerators and with your denominators. And always reduce, depending on whatever form you want.